Welcome back to the Planning Perspectives podcast. I'm Kate Duffy, here with my host, Jamie Hopkins.
Hey, Kate, it's good to see you. And today I'm super excited to have our guest in, Chris Buccini. Chris is the founder of Buccini Pollin Group, and sometimes we call it BPG. So we'll probably do that once or twice throughout. But your story is super interesting. He turned a real estate vision to a $6 billion empire spanning over 22 states, from hotels, office towers, to co-founding Major League Soccer's Philadelphia Union. And so in 32 years, him and his business partners have built BPG into a powerhouse that's reshaping skylines and sports across America. Chris, welcome to the Planning Perspectives podcast. Super excited to have you on here. And, I think we've got a lot of connections between WSFS and some of your work. And for those that are able to see, Chris, I love your background. We were talking about it a while before the show, but, maybe one or two of those items, you have a lot, but what's some of the favorite things you've got back there? Because I think it tells a little of your personality too.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Well, thank you. Well, I am super excited to be on this podcast, and I'm truly so honored to be part of the WSFS family, and I have been now for almost 20 years. And so it means it's very meaningful for me to be here today. As it relates to the backdrop, I think over my left and right shoulder, there's a really cool, my father passed away 4 years ago. A graffiti artist here in the city of Wilmington did this graffiti painting of my father, and that's right there on one shoulder. And then on the other side is a photo of me and then Senator Joe Biden, who I worked for in college for 2 years, which was really meaningful. And then above me, there's from 1913, the day the Hotel DuPont opened up. Someone gave me an original newspaper copy of what it, and just the story of the Hotel DuPont and the way people saw it at the time. And there's some, there's another, the first winning the first season we had at the Philadelphia Union, which was really meaningful. But that's amongst other projects I've done and lots of family photos.
Yeah, well, I love it. And family and sports and the impact out there, it's obviously very important to you. And I'm glad that we have the Union. So we love going to the games. My kids love them. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Let's go back to the start of the company, and we want to hear a little bit of that story. So take us back to the beginning. How'd you get into real estate, and kind of walk us through the start of what became very impactful, as we called it in the beginning of the show, empire. But I'm sure that's not how everyone talks about it. But
listen, I'm sure there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there and business owners. It never feels like an empire. It always feels like cash flow and paying bills and being a corporate citizen. You never really think of it in sort of those big macro exciting ways. But listen, and I think it's important relative to my success of our company, our narrative. All my grandparents came over from Italy as immigrants into both Philadelphia and the city of Wilmington. And so I grew up here in the city of Wilmington, in the Little Italy section. And my grandfather, when he came over in 1915, he then went on to fight in World War II, and he started an air conditioning and heating business. So growing up, my whole life, I was surrounded by all my cousins who were contractors, stonemasons, and I had one uncle who got into development, and he did really well, and it just seemed very easy. I'm like, wow, that's what I want to do. So I was really sort of inspired by my uncle, but always grew up in the trades and a lot of union construction trades in our family. And then, went to college and came out and got right into real estate. And at a very young age, I had the opportunity to buy some of the headquarter buildings of the DuPont company. This was in 1999. I was 28 years old. I was working in private equity in New York City, and my partner Dave Pollin, my brother Rob Buccini and Dave Pollin had started BPG. And the DuPont company came to us and they said, we'd like to sell you our headquarters buildings. As they had been really, quote unquote, right sizing for over a decade, and the buildings were empty. And I have no idea of why they picked a bunch of, late 20s, early 30s something guys. Maybe they knew we were young and dumb. But we acquired 3 city blocks at a very young age. We had no idea what we were doing. We made lots and lots and lots of mistakes. but really, it really kicked off our business, and it really kicked off our love and our commitment to the city of Wilmington. And in those buildings, we built the first market rate apartments that the city had seen in many, many, many decades. So just sort of funny how you get into one thing, and we turned it, we were converting them from office to residential and truly mixed use. And that was 27 years ago. So
wow,
that was my first big project.
That's pretty impressive. I've heard you say that you don't think about yourself as a real estate developer, but a dreamer. And I would imagine back then you would actually have to have these dreams to know you could accomplish what you did. Talk a little bit about the key mindsets that you've had and the decisions that actually have led you to build $6 billion in assets across 22 states.
Wow, that's so funny. I definitely have a growth mindset, as do my partners. And we have this, I think, having grown up in the city of Wilmington and sort of having seen what it had used to have been and what it was and sort of had come to in the late 90s, where it was just sort of like incredibly quiet. I think, and then having worked in New York, and at the time you had seen New York City coming back and Washington coming back and Baltimore coming back and Philadelphia coming back. And there was this whole, inbound urban revitalization and people moving back and living in the cities. And I'm like, wait a second, Wilmington's right in the middle of it. We're literally the keystone of it. Why can't it work in Wilmington? We have incredible companies here. We have incredible historic architecture. It just seems so obvious to us. And, but it also, I don't think we appreciated the difficulty at the time of how hard it would be. I mean, it was really, really, really hard. So fortunately, I think back then we were more dreamers than realists. But if you don't dream, then big, audacious things don't happen.
That's very true. That is very true. So you talked about some of the missteps that you made or the failures that inevitably come alongside success. So from those, give us a couple of the top lessons that you've learned that are maybe life transformational that you could pass on to someone who's interested in getting involved in a business like that.
Great question. We often joke that collectively over the last 30 years, we've pretty much made every mistake. We've seen everything that, you pro forma that could never happen has actually happened in every way possible, whether it's construction, development, management, leasing. So, listen, I think at the end of the day, you always have to be ready for your downside, because the downside happens. No one saw 9/11 coming. No one saw the global financial crisis coming. No one saw COVID coming, right? It's never going to go in your pro forma. So I think as you get older and you get wiser, you definitely become a little bit more conservative in your underwriting. But that said, if you've got strong fundamentals, right? If you really have a strong foundation, you're going to be fine. I remember coming through Lehman Brothers, which was really hard. I mean, I spent 4 very difficult years. I remember I had some private equity investors and I had some sort of, high net worth investors. And the private equity investors came to me and said, okay, we're done. Here, we're going to walk away from this. We're never going to make money. And my older, wiser, high net worth investors and family office investors said, hey, Chris, you're doing the right thing. Just take it day by day, give it your best. You'll get out of this. And that was some of the most successful investments that we ever did. And I've always done really was in investing in the downturns. The other thing is, I think you'll hear me talk maybe a lot today just about the importance of team. I think WSFS gets that culturally. Like, you literally want to find the best possible people. And you want to surround yourself with the best and the smartest and the most hardworking. And if you've got that, you're going to get through the toughest of times. And that to me is, I always say BPG is not a real estate company anymore. It's all about the people of this organization. I think all great businesses understand that.
I love that. I think there were 2 really interesting things that came out of that. I think one of them is a really great lesson for entrepreneurs, which is that finding the right investors when you're going to do something. Because as you said, right, sometimes the timeline, it's not that private equity or venture capital's bad, but what's the timeline that's aligned with you versus, as you said, a family offices can be very long-term investors. They're not getting out. Right? Like they're there, they're going to continue. It's a bit different. So how do you look at finding co-investors now? What lessons have you learned along that? Because I'm sure we've got a lot of entrepreneurs, business leads that are, thinking through those decisions probably right now.
100%. I spend a lot of time working with our investors, meeting with our investors, finding new investors, maintaining, decades-long relationships. It's so important that we do a lot of different things here at BPG, and it's important that you find the right investor to line up with that right deal, because there are some people who really want to go shoot for the stars and get a higher IRR, and they want to take more risk, and they're going to be in it more for the long term. Where there are other people who just they don't want any risk, will take a much lower return. And so it's so important to do that. I'm constantly networking. The investors I have, I'm constantly saying, do you know other people who might be interested? And so I think it's just spending time with our investor base. It's really, really important. In some ways, one of the hardest things, we do, because we've been doing this for 30 years through a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah, and it's I think finding that alignment, as you said, are they aligned with that project or that return? What's their timeline? Culturally, how do they fit with you and your team? Also, I think it's super important. But I did want to ask you this one because it's weaved in a bit. We talked about it before we hopped on, but you've got the book you hand out, Unreasonable Hospitality. So I did want to ask you, how have you weaved that into the company, right? I think it's a phenomenal message and story. And for those that haven't read it, I'd say go check it out. And if you're a big fan of the show The Bear, which is on FX, I think the first season of that's one of the best pieces of television. Will, the author of the book's one of the co-producers of that show. But Chris, how'd you get into the book, and what elements have you pulled out of it for your firm?
It's such a great. Well, first, I'm a lifelong learner. I think it's so important that we constantly, learn and evolve. And the minute you think you know everything, I think you're done, right? And so I've been doing the same thing for 30 years. And so the way I continue to find fulfillment in my job is I love what I do, but within sort of the four walls of my world, I love to get better. I love to do things differently. And so I'm constantly reading. Unreasonable Hospitality is one of my all-time favorite books. It was written by the young chef owner who started 11 Madison Avenue, the restaurant. He took it over from Danny Meyer, and it's everyone in our business. And I repeat this to everyone all the time. We are in the hospitality business. If someone has chosen to be in a BPG office building, we've got to treat them almost like a hotel guest. They're paying us rent. They deserve to have a great experience. What can we do to take care of them? If you're living in one of our apartment buildings, certainly if you're coming to one of our hotels, what can we do to make it a great stay so that you come back? I often say I'm the chief marketing and revenue officer at BPG. I've got to be out there constantly trying to grow revenue here. And it means listening to people. And so no matter where we have almost 4,000 employees throughout the United States through BPG and its affiliates. We have 1,000 employees here in the city of Wilmington. So whether you're interfacing one of our baristas in one of our coffee bars, or you're in one of our gyms, or you're at the Chase, the Field House there, or the Penn Cinema, or any of our restaurants, it's what can we do to make people happy and create a great experience so that they want to come back. And so I've got a stack of books right there. I can't do it, and love to hand them out. So thank you for asking about Unreasonable Hospitality.
I love that you brought up team earlier, and I just want to go back to that for a second, because you work with some of your family members, and being in a family business is very interesting. The dynamics can range. You have people who are focused on family mindset, where, shared values and emotions are really important. And then you've got the business mindset that you're actually building something to scale and grow wealth. So how do you navigate those dynamics with your family members that you're in business with? And how do you create boundaries when you are really making some high stake decisions?
Boundaries. That's a great question. I don't know, maybe you could help me on that. No, I'm very blessed. I have one sibling. I have an older brother. We're very close. We are so close that we actually share a driveway where we live. And I work about 10 feet away from him. And so, and we work out, we start at least 2 mornings a week in the gym together. It helps that we have a very strong Italian mother who would beat the crap out of us if we misbehaved at the age of mid 50 and 60. But no, I think, listen, one of the things I am most proud of is I fully appreciate the difficulties of working with family members. I think the first 10 years of my 30-year partnership with my brother, we were constantly like fighting like, brothers are. Jealousy seeps in. And I think after about 10 years, we were like, you know what, actually, Rob is a lot better at a lot of things than I am. I like to think I'm a lot better than some things than him. And we both really try to respect each other's lanes. We defer to each other in those lanes. And we truly have a division of labor where 1 + 1 is 3. And I believe it can be a very powerful thing to work with a family member if you have it's all about having the right mindset, And again, truly, it comes from, I think also my mom and dad worked together. They ran our family HVAC business. So we grew up where like business, family dinner wasn't, about the food. It was like every family business was like every family dinner was like a business meeting in our house. Who owed mom and dad money? How are they going to get paid? How did they get the new job? So I think my brother and I were fortunate to have grown up like that. But of course it has its challenges. And sometimes you just have to bite your tongue and walk away.
I think that's a great point. And listening to one another is a really critical skill, I think, in those family business settings.
It's so true. I think we're also very blessed in that we both have a very similar work ethic. And again, as here we are, older stage of our career, and we're still very competitive about who got in early, who worked, 7 days a week, who stayed late. And I think we would both say that we've made each other better at what we do.
You said that you're both very competitive. There's some things you think you're better than a Matt by a lot too. Do you have the sibling? Do you have a game that you all play, like ping pong or something? That's the like rivalry game.
No. No, we don't. That might be, but we definitely go to the gym together. And my brother was an incredible football player in college, and I sort of give him the respect he deserves with that. And we both played college football. Our partner Dave Pollin, who my brother founded the business with, he played college football, and so we actually have a lot of people that work at BPG who were college athletes or Mike Sowers, he's a professional lacrosse player. He's here. We have people like that in our organization because we're so team oriented. It's a very flat organization. It's a very entrepreneurial organization, despite all the people that we have here. And so, we have about 17 conference rooms here in our office because I think it speaks to the fact that it's a very collaborative workplace.
And you do have BPG Sports. We talked about the union a little bit.
Yes.
So actually, what got you to say yes to that versus doing something else at the time?
I think most of our projects have an interesting story that got us there. We didn't just sort of wake up one day, but there was a confluence of events that came together where one, my brother and I were both lacrosse dads, and we were out sort of every weekend driving our kids to practice, and wherever we would go, people would say, "You need to build an indoor turf facility on the Wilmington riverfront." And I said, "Well, you go build it. Why do I have to build the damn thing?" But that was going on. But we were sort of in it. And then at the same time, the governor of Delaware was trying to keep the 76ers, their G League, and they needed a home. And so it just sort of all came together. And like most things we do, Delaware is a small place. It's hard to do big projects on their own. So constantly, what we try to do is we try to do big projects, but break them into smaller pieces. So we were able to do the G League piece. We were able to do the youth sports piece. And We were incredibly fortunate to get, partners like Nemours, who came in and did the orthopedic side of it. And just, we really, again, it's a collaborative company, but it's a collaborative community, and really just bringing the pieces together to make something great come together. And it's been transformative. We get over 2 million people a year that come down to the riverfront. And we now manage DE Turf, and we manage Kirkwood Soccer. So BPG Sports manages pretty much all the turf fields in the state of Delaware. And it's become a huge, these tournaments have become a huge part of our economy. It's a really, really important multiplier effect that we get. A lot of the times it's like weekends in the summer when these areas would otherwise be sort of quiet.
Is there anything else that that you can talk to us about that BPG would like to get into in the future that's maybe a little bit different?
No, I think we really enjoy in the real estate side, the office side. We really believe in the importance of the workplace and the longevity of office as a sector. I think we can all see it's really come back a lot. We really want to keep building more and more apartments here in the state of Delaware and elsewhere. We're very focused on hospitality and making that better here. And on the sports side, we're working very hard to build an indoor track on the riverfront. Again, how do we just create a bigger pie? And we were really fortunate to work with WSFS, who is the sponsor of the Philadelphia Union Sportsplex in Chester. And to think about how, world-class the WSFS Sports Complex is at the Philadelphia Union project. And then you come right down the road and you've got our field house here on the riverfront. We really have become this national center of youth sports and college sports as well. So again, I think it's a really exciting way to grow our economy.
Well, Chris, what you have done for the city of Wilmington, the state of Delaware, has been incredible. In the decades that you've been doing this, give us your best piece of business advice you've ever received for investing in real estate and for running a business.
Okay, well, I'm going to repeat a few themes. One is build an amazing team. As I said earlier, when we got into this, it was all about the bricks and the sticks. It was all about, buying low, selling high. I think the greatest thing we've done has been not only building a full-time team inside of BPG, but the people we work with. It's quite frankly having really strong relationships with WSFS and lenders who, when the economy is not always super strong, and so you really need those partners when things are good and when they're not as good, right? So I think that's really, really important on just in terms of any business. I think we're more focused today on quality than ever. We want to own the best buildings in the best markets with the best, with the best tenants. And again, not to make this a WSFS advertisement, but really proud of the fact that we built the WSFS Bank Center here in Wilmington when we had zero relationship with WSFS. And 20 years later, WSFS just committed to a very long-term renewal there in that building, right? I would say another thing is we are always so focused on holding long-term. I think it's really important actually to take wins every once in a while. Take that win and just move on, move on to the next thing. And then I think as a leader, for me, and this isn't for everyone, but for my brother and me, we really like to say we lead from the front. And to me, it's important that there's nothing I would ask someone to do that I wouldn't do myself, and that I actually don't do myself. So I go very big and I go very macro, and then I go very small and I go very tactical. If you're walking around the city of Wilmington, you're going to find my brother picking up trash. He's usually out there picking up trash. He's obsessed with the cleanliness of our city. And I'm really appreciative of that because I get to be the beneficiary. But, we're here. We are a back to work or an in the office business where June of 20, so literally, a few months after COVID, we were back 100% in the office 5 days a week, and we remain that way. And that's been really important to us. But I think you'll find that, I'm typically one of the last people here at night, certainly on Fridays, and working nights and weekends. And so I think for me, we're a little bit maniacal about really focusing on the details and being sort of in the details, despite how large we have become from an employment stance.
I love that, and thank you for sharing. It is a funny thing. I've actually really adopted that in the past, I think it's been probably about 2 years. So when I see trash and I'm walking around and I can see a trash can, I will pick it up and put it in the trash can now. And I do it at the beach. I try really hard when I'm on the beach. If I see people leave trash or there's trash there, right, pick it up and put it in the trash cans, because I'm just these are the places I live, I work. I don't want it full of trash. And if everyone just picked up 2 pieces of trash when you see it, it would be a lot cleaner. And my kids now do it too. And it's interesting because they watch me do it, and I'll see my son just see a plastic bottle laying there, and he'll go pick it up and walk it over to the trash can in Bryn Mawr where we live and drop it in. And I'm like, that's great. I really do love it. It's these small things, right?
Well, you're in a leadership role, and people see whether it's leadership in your family, whether it's leadership in your community, whether it's leadership in your business, there's a multiplier effect to every action you're taking.
Yeah. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today, sharing a little bit of your story and BPG's story. So if people want to learn more about you or the company, where would they go?
We're really proud of our website, www.bpgroup.net. Please come follow there. We're certainly on Instagram. I think we do a really good job of sort of getting the word out on Instagram about the many ways that we're involved in the communities. We don't just invest in buildings. We really try to invest in the communities around those buildings. So there's a big team and a lot of effort that goes into that. So please follow us on Instagram. I think we're on Facebook, but I'm not on Facebook.
So maybe follow it on Facebook if you're on there.
Yeah, you're on it. But I'm so honored to be part of this podcast. Thank you for really having me today.
Well, thank you for everything you've done for the city, for development. Kate, thanks for helping lead the show today. And everyone else, thanks for tuning in. Before we wrap up today, I just want to do a quick disclaimer. Our guest on the show today is a current client of our organization, but was not compensated for their appearance on our show. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And until next time, stay safe and healthy.
Thank you for listening to the Planning Perspectives podcast. Don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes are available. Visit our website at www.bmt.com or call us at 833-973-7633. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Investments, not a deposit, not FDIC insured, not insured by any federal government agency, not guaranteed by the bank, may go down in value.